For a transcript of this episode, training plans, and more, visit marathonsfortherestofus.com. Hey there, I'm Coach Carl. Today, I want to talk to you about why people recommend a negative split in the marathon. So the short answer to this question is that people recommend a negative split because it works, and we see that it works really in all distance races. The world record for every event from the mile up to the marathon has been set with a negative split. But I want to talk a little bit about why this works, both from a physiological perspective and a psychological perspective, so you have a little bit better understanding of why you want to try to run a negative split in your race and what exactly is going on in your brain and in your body that allows that to be more effective. So let's start with talking about why negative splits make sense from a physiological perspective. And really the key concept here is something that's called lactate threshold. Now, lactate threshold is a really good predictor of how you're going to perform in a distance event. If you aren't familiar with the concept of lactate threshold, essentially it's the point at which your body's lactate production exceeds the ability of your body to process that lactate. So that's the point where we see lactate begin to accumulate in your body. Now, everybody has a different point at which they're going to cross that lactate threshold, depending on their fitness, depending on their genes, certain physiological makeup, but everybody does have a point where they're going to cross that lactate threshold, and it's directly related to effort. The harder you're going, the more effort that's being produced, the sooner you are going to cross that lactate threshold. So at that point, you really have two options. You can either rest and allow those energy systems to reset, or you can slow down, allow your body to process that accumulated lactate, work through it, and get back to where you were before. But neither of those are going to be very conducive to continuing to run fast and putting together a good race. So really what you want to do is you want to delay crossing that threshold until as late in the race as you can. You know, once that clock starts ticking, we want to make sure that we have enough time to finish the race before we reach a point where the muscles and the energy systems are shutting down. Now that means running slower at the beginning of the race so that we're not reaching a point where we're crossing over that threshold too soon. And assuming your endurance is good, then that will allow us to run faster, work harder, and push through that threshold in those last couple miles of the race where we're close enough to the finish of the race where we can have that lactate start to accumulate and it's not going to negatively impact race performance. Now, you can certainly improve your lactate threshold through training and through speed work, and that is absolutely going to keep you running faster and allow you to have a better performance during the race itself. But what it doesn't do is it doesn't negate the benefits of a negative split, and it doesn't mean that you can cross over that lactate threshold in, let's say, mile 5 or 6 and hold it for the next 20 miles. You can't. And so what we want to do is not only train so that our lactate threshold is very high, but we want to race smart so that we don't cross that lactate threshold until later in the race. So that's sort of the bird's eye view of why it makes sense to negative split a race from a physiological standpoint. Now, from a psychological standpoint, I think there's a lot of benefits as well. Obviously, one huge aspect of a successful marathon is being able to push and work hard when you're tired. And that's a really difficult thing to do because it goes against our body's natural instincts. Our body's natural instincts when we're tired is to slow down and to stop and to get out of this feeling of discomfort that we have. And so what we need to do is put ourselves in a position where either we don't feel that discomfort because we've raced intelligently, or we feel that discomfort very late in the race. Certainly delaying the sort of muscle fatigue and the energy system fatigue by running smartly plays a part in this, but from the psychological side of things, there's also the aspect of sort of saving mental energy. If you're not working too hard early in the race, you're able to save some of that mental energy for those difficult miles at the end, and that's really important because that's when you need them. If you spend too much mental energy either pushing yourself too hard or worrying about your pace and those sorts of things in the first half of the race, then it really can come back to bite you when you need that mental energy in the second half of the race. Now, another nice thing about negative splits is, by definition, it means you will be running faster in the second half of the race. And if you're running faster in the second half of the race, you will be passing people because most people don't negative split a marathon, even though it's the most efficient way to run one. Now, running faster in the second half of the race and passing people in the second half of the race can be a huge confidence boost and a huge mental boost at a time that you really need it. At a time when maybe the doubts are starting to creep in a little bit, the fatigue's definitely creeping in, and you need to fight against that instinct to stop. Being able to say, man, I'm building momentum, I'm passing these people, I'm running faster, that mile was faster than my last mile, which was faster than the mile before it. That can all be a huge mental boost and a boost to your spirit in those difficult final miles of the marathon. Getting those two aspects to start snowballing like that is a great way to make sure that you have some good positive mental energy to keep pushing physically in those final miles and feeling like a race is going well, feeling like you're succeeding, feeling like you're following your plan and hitting your goal is always going to be a better mental approach than trying to hang on for dear life because you went out too fast in the first half of the marathon. So to me, those are the big picture ways, both physiologically and psychologically, that a negative split makes sense in a marathon. And of course, we have a lot of real world data that shows that this is the appropriate way to approach pacing a marathon as well. Now, next week, I'm going to go into some specific tips about how you can work on negative splitting in your marathon so that hopefully when you get ready for your next marathon, you can take that approach and apply it to your race and see the results that we see when people negative split. As always, thank you so much for watching. I hope this information was helpful to you, and please share it with your friends if it was. And if you have suggestions for future episodes and topics, leave them in the comment section below. I'd love to hear what things you're struggling with and what things I can help you with. Thanks again. We'll talk to you soon.